Welcome to Father to Six. I am the General. Before we start, I would like to give a huge shout out to wellness and life coach Tanya F Cain, who was a driving force behind this interview. She has a wealth of knowledge on everything, including wellness and life coaching. Check her out on TanyaFCain.com. That's TanyaFCain.com. Also on Instagram at Tanya.F.Cain and on Facebook, Tanya F Cain. All of her handles will be in the description below. Let me express how very proud I am of being a part of a generation of Black men that are active fathers. A fatherhood, as I call it. A salute to those of us that have the ability to share their experiences with others so others can learn and improve. So today we have Curtis Stevenson with us to discuss fatherhood. It's an honor and pleasure to have you on the channel, on the show. Curtis, tell us about it. Tell us about yourself.
Okay. My name is Curtis Stevenson. I'm 55. I have two kids. One is special needs. Another one is in college. I currently reside in New Jersey, and the two of them are in Kentucky. My son currently goes to Murray State, and my daughter is under the care of her mom.
Okay. Well, today's episode is about fatherhood. So with that said, what is fatherhood to you and how important is it? In addition, did your perspective change before you was a father and after you were a father?
I think my perspective has really changed. Growing up, it was in a single family home. Basically, I was raised by my mom. I had uncles, but basically raised by women. I think fatherhood embodies a lot of different things. I think one is being there for your kids, mentally, spiritually, socially, and financially. Sometimes, due to certain situations and relationships, you can't fulfill all of them, especially if you're in a relationship and you break up and you move away. But I still think you have to be a part of your kid's life. I think kids need that. I think daughters especially need that. And son needs that to guide them in the right direction. And with, as you get older, you get experiences. You learn a lot of different things. You've learned some of the mistakes you made. Unfortunately, you can't erase them, but you can change the perspective of certain situations and how others view certain situations.
What was your reaction when you found out your first child was going to be born, or the special lady you was with at the time was pregnant? Mm-hmm. What was your first feelings and reactions?
I was excited. I was excited. Let me see. My daughter was born in 1990. So let me see. I'm trying to figure out how old I was. Probably like 26 or 27. Somewhere in there.
So you're a little seasoned. You got all your everything out the way, partying and everything, huh?
Not quite. But I got enough of it out. But
okay.
I was excited. And then as the pregnancy started going on, she started having a little bit of issues. So the excitement kind of grew to concern. Then they had to do emergency C-section.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so actually my daughter, when she was first born, she was only 2.5 pounds.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, she spent the first 6 weeks in the hospital. Going there made me realize how precious life really is. I guess when you're young, you take it for granted.
Yes.
But when you have a kid, and unfortunately, when they're going through that, as a dad, you kind of feel helpless because you can't do nothing for them. The only thing you could do is, lean on family, say your prayer. It was extremely long, 6 weeks, but she made it through. Now, I can tell you, going through that experience made me stronger because you have to be there for your kids. There was days when I went there, I kind of wanted to cry, but you got to stay strong. You never want to get off that, those type of signals. I can remember seeing kids there a pound, which just breaks your heart.
Yes.
I still remember going to, I think it was Toys R Us or Babies R Us. buying doll baby clothes so she can fit them.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So if you can imagine 2.5 pounds, that's amazing considering where she's at now.
Just 2.5 pounds of life.
Yes.
Moving, just
yes.
responding to
yes.
just nature. Just
yes.
Speaking of that, what was your reaction when you first laid your eyes on her? You like when you seen her for the very first time? And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but just that initial feeling.
The first reaction was, oh my gosh, this is my daughter. My second reaction was, oh my gosh, she's so tiny. Like it's a range full of emotions that's just like, I went home that night and cried. Obviously, my wife was still in the hospital because she had a C-section.
Right.
I went home that night and cried. That probably was the only time I cried. Then I pulled it together. But just seeing her was like, whoa, that's a part of me. Unfortunately, she was tiny, but I could tell you after about 2 or 3 weeks of just going there every day, she knew who we were. Like the nurse would say, when we used to stay there I used to get off work, stay there all night, go home, take a shower, go back to work. When we leave, she used to cry.
Wow.
Imagine that.
I do. I can.
Like she used to literally
that
cry.
bond that y'all was building from when she came out the womb to that particular moment every single day. Yeah.
Yes. But you know, she's good now. Unfortunately, she has autism, which, you know, sometime when you're a preemie that small, it's going to be issues. She doesn't talk, but you can communicate with her. Like she understands. She had a problem with hearing and a lot of different issues. She can hear now, but she still doesn't have the ability to speak, but you can communicate with her.
So those of us who have more than one child, like us, what was the same question for your second child, your son? You know, how is it already being an actual father, full-blown father, hominis dominus, you know what I mean? Going through everything you went through with your daughter to now, you know, having another child, which happens to be a boy, a son. How was that feeling?
Well, obviously as a dad, you kind of, you know, most dads want a son.
Yes.
You know, that's probably all dads. Right? Like you want your legacy to go on in your name.
Yes.
I was excited. I was happy. I was overcome with joy. We had he's a little me. You know, most dads wants a boy to play football, do all them other things. He played football a little bit like I did, but actually he did join the band.
Okay, nice.
Which I was in the band.
Okay,
so I'm assuming,
like father, like son.
Yeah, well, he's probably better than me, actually, a musician, but I won't tell him that, but actually he did join the band. So that was definitely a blessing. So during that time he was born, we didn't even know she was pregnant. And we broke up, and then I was in New Jersey and I say to myself, I got kids. I can't stay here. I have to go there and raise them.
Right.
That was tough because I left everybody in Jersey behind. But as a dad, I felt like that's the right thing to do, to be there for my kids. Absolutely. So I actually uprooted and moved to Kentucky.
Okay.
I think I stayed there about 9-10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's different from here. It's different when you have kids and you're raising them, and you know your support system is in other states.
Right. Further from you.
Yes, but given all things that I went through, I would do it all over again.
Good. So you mentioned that you didn't grow up in a 2-parent household.
No.
So with that said, how was your relationship with your father? Did you know your dad?
I knew him. We really didn't speak much. You know, I as I got older, I realized that you can't really blame one particular person in divorce.
Right.
Sometimes there's things that happen that you don't understand.
Right.
And you know,
and every relationship is different.
Yeah. So I never held that part against him.
Right.
I did feel a certain type of way that he kind of wasn't in my life. You know, I don't know if it was because of distance or whatever the case may be, but
right.
I did feel a certain type of way. But I can tell you, if you have a strong mother, you don't realize that you're single. You don't realize that you don't have a dad. I mean, you know you don't have one, but it's not a focus because your mom is so strong and provides for you.
Right.
It you know, it overcomes that. I will say that not having a dad, I kind of was probably a little bit more mouthier because I didn't have that male
discipline, that's
like my mom
keep you in line type thing.
Yes, but it's different when a man's man come at you. You know, like mom, she's going to spank you or whatever.
Right.
With dad got bass. Dad
got that fire.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the Lion King.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
yes.
It's a difference. It's a major difference. I don't per se think I missed out on anything because he never was really in my life.
Right.
So I can't say what I missed if I
right.
never knew what I didn't or did have.
Right. So with that said, did you have any mentors or like male role models growing up?
Yes. I had my cousin Spencer, my cousin Dennis, my uncle Big Kurt, your dad. You know, he took me under his wings. Actually, he used to beat me up, but that's another story. he kind of made me tough. You know, where if you could survive that, you can survive anything.
Okay.
So, I had pretty good role models, I must say.
So were there any traditions from those role models that was put onto you that you passed on to your children?
I would say respect for your mom. And I would say hard work. I've seen how they work. I've seen how they accomplish things. I've seen how, you have to have money to take care of your family. If you have kids, you have to be able to provide for them. And actually, unfortunately, you never met him, but Louis' dad really was a great role model because this man went to work 6-7 days a week, rain or shine.
Yes, Mom Tanya was just telling me that the other day.
Growing up in the 70s, he was kind of the first person that I seen $100 bills.
Wow.
And I don't mean $100 bill. I mean several $100 bill. And he started say, yes. And he started, Curtis, if you work hard, you take care of your family and you can have this. So, I don't think
a big impact on you.
But yes, he did. And he was a hard worker. So you're talking when you were barely a teenager, you're not really understanding money, but you understand $100 bill.
Right.
I can tell you, he had a lot of them for that era. And
no matter what era you in, the $100 bill looks totally different than all the other bills.
Yes. It has a different aura about it.
So with I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So with that said, with not having an actual father there, but having male role models around you, at what age, thinking now, at what age do you think you needed your father the most, and what time frame?
I would say 17.
Why?
At age 17, I was a junior in high school. Your testosterone level is at an all-time high. You're at the age where you're saying, Mom no longer spanks me, and if she did hit me, it's not really going to hurt.
Right.
So you start not being overly disrespectful, but you kind of start challenging.
Touching the line, so to speak.
Yeah, you kind of challenge her authority.
Right.
And you push the boundaries because you're 17. You think you're not a man, but mentally you do think you're a man.
Right.
But you're not a man. I would say that probably was the age that I really did. Fortunately for me, I had a couple uncles that whenever I stepped over the line, they would kind of reel me back in.
Okay.
They would give me a stern talk. And, when a man talks to you as a teenager, as a man, you understand your place.
Right.
So I would say 17 was a very tough year because, you
transitioning.
You're transitioning, but you're also breaking away from mom. It's no longer being under mom 24/7. You have your own thoughts, your own ideas. And let's face it, at 17, you're going to clash with mom or dad because your thinking is not like their thinking. Now they know what you don't know,
Right.
but you think you know what they know.
Right. Or
and
more.
that lies the problems.
So in your opinion, everything that you went through and
Mhm.
the vast experience you have,
Mhm.
what happens to a young man growing up when a father isn't present, or I'm gonna just use active, because
Mhm.
nowadays we have a lot of fathers who may not be in the household, but they are present, and vice versa. We have a lot of fathers who are in the household, but they're not present at all. You know what I mean?
I think, unfortunately, with especially young Black males, they have outside influence. If you don't have the right family members or friend, then that's going to lead to things that they shouldn't do. Bad grades, cutting class, getting in trouble with the law. I think a whole range of things. I think it's no accident why young Black youth, unfortunately, get in a lot of trouble because the dads are not in the home.
Right, they give them that
Some of that
guidance.
is designed that way, and some of that just happens to happen that way.
Right.
And I think, the age that a youngster really need, especially a male needs their dad, is probably in that teenager range where you can go straight and narrow or you can go kind of off the rails. And I would say at least from 15 to 18 is the range where it's probably even younger than that.
Yeah.
But for me, I would say from 15 to 18, you kind of really do need a male figure to kind of address issues. Because let's face it, you can't go to your mom and talk about every subject. It just is you know what I mean, just is uncomfortable. And most males will not do it. So now you either learn it from people who don't know, or hopefully you have relatives that know and will show you.
So during that age period between 15 to 17, 18, I'm gonna say your teenage years into your young 20s. What would you define as failure, and what would be your definition of success?
I would say failure for me is I got to a point where I didn't really want to go to school. I really didn't want to study. I was flunking out of school. And then I realized that, you know what, I got to get myself together. I'm disappointing my mom. I'm disappointing family. But the major part was I was letting my mom down. And, I was going on a path that probably was going to lead me to being incarcerated. And actually, when I finally did graduate, I really thought I was grown. So I really wasn't coming home every day.
Right.
And, they didn't have cell phones back then.
Right.
So my mom was starting to get worried. And I would do that because I was kind of working at night. So I would get off like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. But she wouldn't see me till 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. And, you keep repeating that, something's got to change.
Right.
So that's how I got into the military.
Oh, wow. What branch were you in?
She said, son, I can't worry about you like this. You're going to have to go.
Okay.
And I said, whoa. So I joined the military.
What branch did you join?
I joined the Army.
Okay, nice. I'm a Marine myself.
That's how I met my ex-wife. Well, wife then, but that's how I ran into my wife in the military.
Okay, nice. So during your time you're still a father, so I'm not gonna say during your time, but being a father, what was one of the hardest moments you had, and why was it so hard?
The hardest moment was when I decided to leave Kentucky and come back to New Jersey. And even though I had been there for 9 years, I knew in my mind that it was time to go. I felt like job-wise, I couldn't really go no further. And I knew that I was leaving my kids, but I also knew that my mom and relatives was getting older.
Right.
So I would say that was really, really tough.
Okay.
And it took me a long time to come to that decision. Because like I said, I stayed there almost I think 9.5 to 10 years. But I just remember coming back for a visit and saying, man, I love my kids with all my heart. I would, give my life for them, but I have to come back home. My mom is...
Home is where the heart is.
Yes. So that's probably the toughest. That was probably the toughest decision. I think in retrospect, it was the right decision because when I moved back, within a year, my sister passed away. So I got a chance at least to spend that year with her.
Wow.
But by far, that was a very, very tough and agonized decision.
Okay. What is that one valuable principle you want your kids to take from you and remember for their life?
To treat others the way you want to be treated. And,
why is that so important?
Well, I think in this world, the way things are going, I think we need values. And I was always raised to treat people how you want to be treated. If someone doesn't like you, well, then you don't have to talk to them.
Right.
And I think that's a value that everybody should have. And if more people would do that, then the world obviously would be a better place. But I am very, very big on respect, especially to elders.
Yes.
Especially because they have the knowledge and they've earned the right to be called Mr. or ma'am or any of them words that you would like to address them as.
Excellent. If you can go back into time yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
What would I give my young self, me?
Yes. To change the course of your life.
I would say take responsibility for your action. No matter what someone does, you're in control of your reaction. And it's your reaction that's probably going to cause things that shouldn't happen. So if I could talk to a young me, it would be take accountability for your action. And no matter what someone does, you have the power to do the right thing instead of the wrong thing. I would say that's, if I could go back, yes, I would tell myself that.
That's good. Is there anything that while you were growing up as a young man into manhood, is there anything that you wish you could have asked your father that you haven't? Or maybe those mentors that were around that now thinking about it, maybe I should have sought their advice on this, or I should have asked them this or that. Is there anything that you would have, or you wish you would have asked those positive male role models in your life?
Well, that's a tough question. Is there anything that I would like to ask them?
Or wish you would have asked them while you were growing up?
I don't know if there's any particular thing. I probably would like to ask my dad, how did him and my mom meet? What went on in the relationship? And what caused them to go their separate ways? I think I would, and I think I would love to know the answer. Obviously, I would not know that answer, but I would just love to know that answer, because even though I didn't know him, I knew some things about him, and I could probably tell you at some stretch in my lifetime, I was probably doing things that he was doing without even knowing him.
Just in the DNA.
Yes. That is very, very strong.
Yes.
So, from what I do know, there was some infidelity issue. Now, I wasn't there, but that's probably, pretty accurate. And I can tell you that there were infidelity issues with me. So even though I wasn't raised by him, you still have a lot of traits from both parents.
Right.
Good and bad.
What is the most important advice that you would give fathers right now, today?
Love your kids. And above all, put them number one. And build a foundation for them so they could be able to stand and provide on their own. Excellent. I think that's you know, because unfortunately in this world, that's the only way to survive. I mean, you have to have abundance amount of self-confidence to be able to achieve what you want in life. And nothing comes easy. You're going to have to work for it, and you're going to have to take it because it's not going to be given to you.
Oh, true. Very true indeed. Do you think today's fathers have it harder or easier than you had it before us?
Ooh, I think it might be even harder these days, just with social media, just with technology. Influence. I think when we grew up, I don't know if it was easier because, you know, the economic part of that, but I do think it was easier in sense of commanding our attention. Today, it's so many outside distractions. You know, when I grew up, it wasn't a Facebook, it wasn't a Twitter, it wasn't an Instagram, it was none. It wasn't even social media. It wasn't even cell phone.
The social interaction.
Yes. So it was easier to command, not necessarily command your kids, but it was easier to get their attention. Now, even
keep
with
that
all
influence on them.
Yes. Even with all that, you have video games, you have YouTube. I think they're being pulled in so many different directions. I really do think it's probably harder. And not even counting TV and Netflix and all that. And peer pressure. I think peer pressure in this era is probably twice what we went through in our era.
Okay.
You know, if someone doesn't get likes on Instagram, then they really, you know what I mean? So I think it's a whole, and you know, I'm glad they didn't have social media back then. Because now whatever you put out there is out there forever.
Forever, right? That's true. That is true.
And you know, unfortunately, some people put things they shouldn't do. So I think this era probably is twice as hard. I think a lot of things have come to the surface. I think with young Black males interacting with the police, I think you have to, I mean, we had conversations, but not to this degree, where you actually have to tell your kid, especially a male, how
step by step,
what to say, keep your hands if you get pulled over. We didn't really have them conversations back then.
Right.
So I think this is a whole new era. You know, we didn't really have dreads and tattoos, not to this extent. And unfortunately, when you wear dreads or tattoo, you are automatically labeled, which it shouldn't be, but you will get labeled.
Right.
So
More directions.
Yes, I think this is a really tough era.
So with that said, talking about difficulties, what do you feel like the most difficult part of being a father is in the fatherhood? You know, combining, you know, fatherhood when you first became a father to present day fatherhood. What's the most difficult part about being a father? Even to now, when your kids are adults.
Back then, it was a lot easier because it wasn't as much things going on in the world that is now. I think now, your kids need to be socially aware of everything. They need to be aware of, you could post something at 18 and you try to get a job at 25 and it might prevent you. I think that you have to watch what you put on Facebook. I think that jobs, you know, some jobs require passwords. So I think this is by far tougher. And I would just tell kids to be aware, like all kids, my kids, your kids, just to be aware of your surroundings, and be involved in social issues, because one way or another, you're going to have to be involved.
Speaking about social issues, what world events have had the most impact on you as a father?
I would say seeing President Obama being elected, because that shows young Black boys, young Black girls, that anything is possible. And I don't think I would have ever saw that in my lifetime. And the flip side is that there is privileges. And, you know, we went from President Obama to Donald Trump, and you can see the stark contrast where we're held to certain standards and the elite is held to certain standards.
A different type of standards.
Yes. So I think all kids need to be aware of all avenues. This is a different world we're living in. Unfortunately, the recent events over the Capitol, my son is in Kentucky. Kentucky is definitely a different state than Jersey up north or even
Yes.
Georgia. So,
Yes.
I'm always praying for him and nervous. And, you get pulled over. This is what you have to say. This is what you have to do. Be careful. Watch where you go. I don't think we had them conversations like that when we was younger. But now you have to. That, to me, as a dad, them conversations are necessary and mandatory.
So speaking about necessary and mandatory conversations, with your experiences being a father, being extensive, more than mine,
Mm-hmm.
do you think is a difference between fatherhood and Black fatherhood, or
Oh
they
yeah.
all one together? And
No,
explain.
I think it's a difference. I think Black fathers, the ones that are real fathers, are strong. I think they give their kids a nice platform. I think they give their kids an idea of what it is to be a Black male. Not only what it is to be a Black male, but what it is to be a Black dad and a Black father. I think that the world views us a little bit different. And I think it's our job to make sure our kids have views that is not like of the world, but are of what we teach them. Self-worth, history,
Right.
knowledge. I think that as a Black dad, you always aware.
That the standard is higher for
Yes,
us
yes,
and our family
yes,
and than it is for everyone else.
yes. And sometimes you have to give 110% as opposed to 100% to be noticed.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, I do appreciate your time. Is there anything that you would like to say towards the end of this interview? Any last words of wisdom?
I would say teach your kids how to be adults. I think that might be a lost art. I think sometimes as parents, we forget how we was kids, and sometimes we talk at our kids as opposed to talking to them, and they have their own opinions and ideas like we do.
Yes.
And I think we should, even though we might disagree, I think we should let them speak whatever they're feeling or thinking, because if you don't, then they'll shut down.
I totally agree. And with saying that, what's your definition of manhood? Raising a son, a young boy to teenage years, the transition that he hits in the teenage years, and that transition that he hits as a young adult man. What's your definition of manhood? And a lot of people think that manhood is an age, which I disagree.
No.
I feel like it's a maturity level.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That has to be proven.
Yes.
But with that said, what is manhood to you?
I think manhood to me embodies a lot of different things. I think at sometimes you have to be a disciplinarian. I think sometimes you have to be a shoulder to cry on. I think sometimes you have to give them spirituality, and you have to give them history. I think it's not particular one thing. Right. I think it's several different things. And each dad might go about it differently, but I think we need to teach our kids, especially boys and girls, that self-worth, your self-worth should not have a price on it. And I think that manhood is not necessarily an age, because there's people 60 and still don't know how to be a father or a dad. Right. So I don't think it's an age. I think it's a mindset. And a mindset could be 20. I mean, you could be 22 and have kids and do your responsibility. It's not an age. To me, it's a mindset.
Would you like people to reach out to you on social media?
Yes. You can follow me at let me see, what is it? I'm Curtis Stevenson on Facebook. I'm Kurt Dog 609 on Instagram and Twitter.
Definitely enjoyed this time that we had together. Lots of wisdom. Thank you for your time. and just everything that you just given us. I really appreciate it. I hope we have the time to do this again. Definitely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.